Here's Johnny.
So it's been a while. We know, but we're here with a really good, I think, topic that my husband was thinking about, and I thought it was really good. We're like, you know what, let's run with it. I think that's something that even God has been kind of speaking to me about. And the topic for today's episode is the silence in the valley.
Ooh.
So we've all been through, I guess, seasons, I'm sure, in our lives where God feels silent, where he feels distant. Specifically, I think in waiting seasons, I feel like that is where it feels very difficult and hard to know what God is doing or understand what he's doing, where you don't hear him.
Like that.
Like that. That was your cue, babe. That was your cue to...
I was just thinking of like quiet time, and like people say like, oh, I need my quiet time with God and things like that. And then, but when it comes to like going through it, people are like, well, I don't hear God. And I was just thinking of like how like sometimes there is going to be silence in going through difficult seasons, in going through a valley, and we just have to remind ourselves that regardless of the situation, God is still there. God still has a hand on that situation, even if we don't necessarily hear from God.
Yeah. Has there ever been a time that you can recall where you have felt nothing or like heard anything from God while being in a valley season? Because we've all been, and even us together in marriage and individually, we've been through different seasons and valley moments. But I just feel like it's, to me at least personally, in the waiting, it feels extremely hard in the waiting and then not hearing anything, and you want to know, like, God, I just want to hear from you. Like, I just want to, like, am I doing things right? Like, like, you just want to hear something. And there's been times, honestly, personally, where I've pleaded, like, God, like, just send me a message. Like, have you ever been like, God, give me a sign? Like, I don't care.
Oh,
like,
give me a sign.
If it's like a text message, a song, which honestly, God speaks to us
in different ways,
so many different beautiful ways. And I have witnessed and have God not just like speak to me through visions and dreams, but even just scenarios and like through nature recently this past month. But even though I've heard and I feel like he tells me, still going through the waiting, it's like, oh, like, you know that he's there, like you can feel him, but then you don't hear him. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you just don't feel him at all. But there's times where I just know, because I've experienced God before and I've heard and he's spoken things or his truth or his word, but just still there's this stillness. So you're just like waiting and nothing's happening kind of thing. And it feels like, God, are you listening? Are you there? Hello? Like, sometimes it feels that way. And
a lot of the times it feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, it's a lot of like knowing that God is already there. One, I think it takes a lot of trust to know that God's with you, even if you don't hear him. But I always feel like God won't leave you out to dry.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause sometimes I feel like we have to kind of take things on our own. I feel like God's not like too busy for us, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's like almost like a parent, like being a parent. You want your kid to experience things, and you want your kid to learn from mistakes and things like that. That's why, like from the moment that like Adrian was born, I was kind of like so much like, hey, like if he falls, like he has to know how to fall and how to get back up. Because
true.
if we're there to really like
baby him every single step, he's never gonna get stronger. He's never gonna move on to the next step.
And not just that, like, but also like when there's a time that he falls and we're not there, he's not going to know how to handle it. And he's going to hear like it's get to in that aspect. And I'm just thinking about this right now, like because he hasn't had the chance to fall on his own and learn how to pick himself back up, even though he knows that we're there. If it happens, then it's going to feel as if we abandoned him. And I feel like that's how it could be for some people. Maybe like you might feel like God's abandoning you, but you have to realize like, well, no, God's prepared me for this. God's shown me how to take care of these type of situations. Maybe not this exact situation, but something similar. Or he just showed me how to be not just independent, but like strong.
Yeah, that's so good. That's like actually like a really good way to put it, because a lot of times when we don't hear from God, like it's not that he's absent. I think sometimes we confuse his silence for absence. And I mean, we've heard this before, like just because we're not seeing anything in the physical or in the natural, it doesn't mean that he's not moving or working and behind the scenes, because a lot of times we only see what we can see with our physical eyes, but not what he's doing and moving in the supernatural. And sometimes we confuse that with our absence, with like absence. And I think the enemy wants us to worry and wants us to think that God abandoned us, that he left us, that he forsake us, but he doesn't. The Bible says he will never leave us or forsake us. And the enemy wants to make us believe that. And we can't let those lies come in, because sometimes when you're about to have that breakthrough, that's when the enemy will want to take full advantage before that breakthrough comes through, or stop it even from happening.
How do you, I guess, prepare yourself for the silence?
Prepare for the silence? What do you mean?
I feel like that's
for the silence.
But I think that's the thing that's more important, is that
we have to be prepared.
You have to be prepared for the moment that there's silence.
I think it's kind of like the way you put it with like parenthood. Sometimes we need to allow God to, like, in a way, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's like he's pruning us. He's allowing growth from us through the silence. And it's like parents, right? Sometimes it's not that we don't want to help our child or intervene or speak and guide, is that they already know sometimes, because we've instilled it in them, and it has to get to a point where they can do it for themselves. And it's not that God is leaving us, but he's wanting to grow us. And sometimes when we are so far into, like, I guess, our walk in the Lord, it has to get to a point where we have to learn to do it for ourselves, and to, like, to see what God is bringing for the next season. And we don't know what the next seasons of growth in our life spiritually are ahead. But when it comes to whether being a baby in the Lord or you're already a full mature adult in the Lord, we should know better. But as babies, sometimes we're still learning and growing, and the pruning hurts, and the silence hurts probably even more. And I think I have written something down here where it says that this is like, the silence can be mistaken for absence, which I mentioned earlier, but it's these moments that refine us, and it's these moments where God does his best work in the silence. But we need to allow him to prune us, allow him to do his best work, because I mean, I've been personally a victim of the devil messing with my emotions. And in these silence moments, in these silent seasons, my emotions get in the way a lot, and a lot of things, if I'm honest. I'm just a very emotional girly. Right, baby? Girly girl. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's not, right? And I guess what I'm just trying to say is that there's purpose in silence, just like there's purpose in pain, just like there's purpose in the valleys and the heartache. Yeah, I feel like these past 3 or 4 years, or 5 already, I don't even know. These past couple of years, I really have felt that God has been shaping and preparing me. And with each season that comes, I do see how it has molded me and brought in more purpose to my life. And it meant having to go through seasons that were hard, silent seasons, waiting seasons, valley moments. But there was moments where I didn't hear him, and I was so desperate to want to know like what's gonna happen next. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, kind of things. Things aren't going according to plan, or I'm hurting and it hurts, and I feel broken. And it was in those silence moments where I had to learn to surrender. To be honest, I
Mm-hmm.
had to learn to surrender, and we faced we faced loss. I faced waiting seasons when it came to my career, and I just wanted things to go a certain way, and I wanted to keep that control. I didn't want to keep hurting. I didn't want to have to keep enduring pain that came from silence, valley seasons. But kind of like what Julian was saying is that like the whole like point in us going through things is that there is purpose out of it. There's something that comes out of it, but we have to allow God to move and be obedient to Him in order for us to continue to reach those that are also hurting or have experienced similar situations, right? So there is purpose in the silence.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the time from like the time that you took your board exam to the time that you found out? Because that was a good period of time, right? I forgot how long like it was before after you took a test. How
I
long
had
it
to
was?
wait.
You
Yeah,
had
I
to
think it
wait.
was like a month or a couple weeks. I don't even remember. It was like a certain, probably like a week or 2 or 3 weeks. It depended like when I took it. What about it? Waiting
Yeah, because
to
that
get
was a
the.
waiting.
That
And
was so hard because I actually had failed my test, and
do you want
multiple times. Multiple times. I'm embarrassed about it, but I did. It's like a humbling thing for me to share because it was honestly one of the hardest seasons of my life because I had just had Adriana. I was in the postpartum stage, and I was forcing myself to like take this test and move on to like my next season, and I wanted to feel accomplished. But honestly, I was going through like all these hormone
I was
changes
about to
and like so
say,
much mom brain. Like I didn't give myself enough grace at the time. Like I was so hard on myself. Like I was
well,
so hard on myself. And I was forcing myself to try to take this test and pass it to feel accomplished just in the worldly standards. I don't know. I just felt so behind, and through all those times and attempts and waiting, it was a long waiting period. And it hurt so much because I was forcing it to be in a certain timing.
especially because during that time, like you said, like you just became a new mom, and so you were dealing with this was January, so Adrian was like less than 4 months old.
Yeah, like
I
there was
was
just
I
so
was
many
back to
changes.
work.
There are so many changes. I was a stay-at-home mom full time, and I was just so hard on myself. And I also was experiencing a lot of baby blues and I think I was depressed at
You were
one point
depressed,
because but that's on me. It was on mental. Like I allowed myself to get to a place where I felt like I was not purposeful. I felt like
but
I remember feeling like God didn't care about me moving forward. But honestly, that season of learning and becoming a mom and like waiting and what's going to happen, am I going to get this career at a certain timing? Am I going to like all these things that were in my mind, like God honestly molded me and allowed me to grow, not just in motherhood, as a person, as a believer in my faith, to cling to Him. It allowed me to surrender all my plans and surrender like all my hopes and desires and timelines to God. Like I had no choice but to be like, literally, it felt like it was out of my control and I had to just give it to God, kind of thing.
that's a good point that you brought up, because do you remember the night before you found out you passed?
Yeah, we were praying. You prayed for me.
But do you remember what I did?
Yeah, you lifted up my hands like Josh did with
Moses.
Moses. Yeah. Why?
Well, just like,
That
because
was a really good prayer night. I remember. It was so hard. And honestly, when the breakthrough happened was when I allowed myself to just be like, okay, God, your will be done. Like, I'm putting the effort, and it was a lot of effort. Oh my gosh. I would wake up like at 5 a.m. to study. It was so, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it because it was so much work. Like, props to moms that are going to school right now and getting it done for their children and getting their careers and moving forward. But also props to the moms that are also staying at home full time, because that is a lot of work. And
We love you, moms.
it was such a hard season, but also I was so determined. I'm also very goal oriented and driven, so I think that helped me keep going even when I did fail, but also trusting God. And in that time, I think that with that, like feeling like God was silent, feeling like God wasn't moving, like the enemy stole so much from me because I let him. And I think that's something that we need to identify when we are in silent seasons and we feel like God is not moving, because God is moving, but we allow our minds to get to a place where we let the enemy rob us from moments that we could continue to have joy. We could continue, like literally, I got to enjoy so many beautiful first time moments with my son at home, and it made me appreciate staying at home, which is why I'm right now really not working full time, because I valued being at home and I value time at home, but I also still want to work. So I don't know. I feel like I appreciated that time with my son that God gave me, even though it meant because I was trying to study and pass my tests. But also, I wanted to enjoy motherhood and not rush it. But at the same time, I was rushing it. And I learned throughout the time of just waiting to just enjoy the beauty of where God had me and not rush into the next season, and understand that His stillness and the quiet did so much for me, and I'm so thankful for it in that specific silence waiting season for me.
I feel like right now when you were talking, I was thinking about, like, I was trying to think like for me and how it relates to me, like the silence. And I was thinking, I was like, man, like right now I'm in a season of like where it's all go 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 and go, and it's just so the opposite of silent. It's loud, but in the loudness, it's silent on like God's side.
Yeah. 'Cause there's so
And
much noise.
and like I'm trying to like distinguish, like, is it am I what is it, there's a word for it, and if you know it, let me know. um Selective hearing. It's like selective hearing, like I'm hearing all the noise, like my ears are listening to the noise almost so where it almost is like I'm not hearing from God at the same time. But that's that silence. And I feel like, I mean, I'm pretty sure a whole bunch of dads can or even just husbands can agree. I mean, sometimes to be able to provide and lead and
so much responsibilities are on you. Like, it's like a weight.
So many things can come from that, and it can cause you to feel like, one, it can feel like it's silent, but two, it kind of touching back on how we're saying, like the silence is to help grow you and mold you a little bit better. But at the same time, like, we select what we hear. And if we're not hearing from God, or if we're paying attention and trying to think of like, oh, I have this bill due, oh, I have this at work, oh, I have that at school, oh, I have this with my wife, oh, I have that with my kid, and we're not saying like, oh, I have that with God. Like, we're not selecting to hear that.
And sometimes maybe God's not even silence, but the fact that we're hearing all the noise, it makes us feel that He is silent and we don't hear Him because we're not paying attention to His stillness. Because sometimes He is speaking and we're just choosing to either ignore it or avoid it, or we're focused on the loud noise. But even if He is silent, there's just some stillness. There's like I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, when you're at the beach, or I don't know what could be like a good scenario where it's like
the mountains,
like there's just a beauty and like stillness. Like when we went to, was it
New Mexico,
Colorado?
New Mexico,
New Mexico, where there's just like the quietness, like it's just, there's a stillness, like, and even though you don't hear anything, you could feel that just comfort, peace. You could feel
I felt
it.
that.
You feel it?
I felt that. I felt that.
I don't know how to describe it, but that's
I
how
loved
God
it.
is.
I loved experiencing it. I wish and dream that I could experience it more often. About going up to like a place. I mean, My favorite one was with OJ.
Mm-hmm. Shout
And
out to our friends. Wait, when y'all went in
hey,
that morning y'all
that
went up.
morning when we went
That
walking,
was, yeah.
we walked. We jumped over and we kind of went up the the mountain.
Fence?
No,
What
no,
you
not the
doing?
fence, not the fence, but the mountainside,
Where the
and
little
then
cabin was
we
at.
could see the bigger mountain like in front of us, and like it was like cold, and all you can hear is like the wind
Yeah.
going through the trees, and then you can hear like a twig being snapped from like a deer that was like walking and things like that, and you just hear
Yeah.
those things, and you just hear the silence, and in the silence there's still noise.
Yeah. And you could feel the presence, right? Like sometimes it's like God, like you don't hear him, but you could feel his presence. You could feel him moving, and you know that he is moving. It's just, I really do think a lot of it has to do with surrendering and submitting to his will whenever he is silent,
Yeah.
because he is moving. But yeah, that's like, I guess, some waiting. To me, I think personally it makes it harder when you're waiting in the silence.
Now, I know we were talking about like the waiting and the silence, but obviously we don't want to be all down and out, or not down, but like.
We're just being real.
But how good is it after the silence?
It's so worth it. It's so worth it to know that you weren't alone and you didn't go through it alone, and God was there the whole time. Like it's so worth it. I think that's why I hold on to hope always. Whenever I'm feeling that God is quiet, or that I don't feel him, or I don't understand what he's doing, because he's done things before for us. And honestly, right now, God feels a little bit silent for me. I know he's there, which is why I'm not like down and like defeated. Sometimes I get emotional, but like, I think that's why this topic today was so perfect, because right now I do feel like God is a little bit silent. But I know he's moving, and I know he's there. And I think that comes with experiencing seasons similar to this. And that gives me the hope, that gives me the confidence and strength and reassurance that it's going to be worth it. And he's here. Like, might not feel him sometimes. I might not hear him, but I think that's why it's important that when we are feeling like he's silent, that we go to the word, that we go to worship, that we go in, to church to pray, because that's sometimes where God will, like, when we literally can't hear him, like, you're gonna hear something when you read the word. You're gonna hear when you get in your quiet time and read your devotional. You're gonna hear something right, with scripture. And sometimes you gotta make yourself seek God, specifically when you're feeling like he's silent. But I think that's right now, like, it's hard because we are kind of in another waiting season. And I think to the times when before we were trying to have our son Adrian, it was kind of silent and it was hurtful. But at the time I didn't understand, and I think I was feeling more broken. I guess to give more details and context, is we're trying to have our son after experiencing loss. And it was pretty hard, and a lot of months feeling hopeless and hurtful. And I just keep feeling like I feel like stabbed in the heart every month when it wasn't happening, because I was seeing it happen all around me to others. And I just felt like God didn't care. I remember feeling like it wasn't fair. It made me question, like, will I be able to become a mom? Like, I'm hurting from this loss that we experienced. And like, it was very hard. And I just remember feeling hopeless. Like, I remember like crying like so much. Like when I found out my sister was pregnant, but even though I was happy, I just feel like so broken in other situations. And now, although we're kind of facing the same thing again, right? Am I being too personal? It's real, right?
It's real.
Like, we're obviously trying to conceive. I shouldn't say that. I don't know. Well, we're like, obviously we've experienced loss and health issues, and it's a little bit different context, similar but still very different context.
Same thing but different.
Very different but pretty similar. And I just feel like it's an attack, which is why I think that, just because I've seen God do it before and I know what he can do, and kind of like what Julian was mentioning is that it feels so good knowing that God was still with us even through the waiting and the stillness and quietness of going through the hurt and the brokenness, feeling like God didn't care, feeling like he abandoned us, feeling like we're doing all this for him, but it's feeling like we're not receiving the blessings, right? Well, now, although we're in a similar boat, I feel strong. I feel, yes, emotional sometimes because it still hurts. Like, to be honest, it's hard. It's very hard feeling these things month after month, but I don't feel as like defeated. I don't feel as, I guess, hopeless. I feel hopeful regardless. Like, I'm hopeful. I'm so hopeful because I know he's done it before.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what's ahead. I really don't. And sometimes I worry. But honestly, I do feel more at peace this time around because we went through something similar. It did strengthen us and we saw what God can do and how he can move. And I think that's why now, even though we're kind of going through it again, it gives me hope. And I'm truly at peace because God is the one that gives us a peace, even through multiple silence, waiting, valley seasons.
That was good.
Okay. You make me cry.
No, no, that was good. I just think of those moments where, even though like God's might not like be very verbal, the love is still there.
Yeah.
The he's the parent that like is still there. He's the one that you can run to,
Yeah.
with arms wide open, and it made me think of just situations in my life that, like, even though it's hard to trust people, or not trust people, but like rely on people, God can easily be there.
Yeah.
It's, I guess you could think of it like as like in those moments where like there's silence, like you could still call to God, like
Yeah.
you can still like talk to him.
Yeah. Tell him what you're feeling. Everything you're feeling, express it to him. And
I feel like that's
like your safe place.
I feel
think,
like that's the
honestly.
thing that needs to like really like get like not normalized, but like what needs to happen whenever you're facing that type of situation is that you need to remember that, like, even if you're not hearing anything, even if you feel like you're being ignored or anything like that, like, still talk to him, because then he's gonna surprise you.
Yeah.
He'll surprise you, and he'll be like, you'll think back and you'll be like, wow, like I can't believe you remembered that, or I can't believe you still answered that, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's times where I like take a step back and I look at my life and I'm like, wow, like that was a prayer that I like completely forgot about, and it's answered. It's being answered, but because sometimes we're so fixated on all the unanswered prayers or on all the deception, we forget that God has already moved and he's already answered in other ways. And I think that's the beauty of knowing and believing that God can do something for you, is that he listens and he cares and he captures all our tears. Like, there's times where like I think about all the times that I've cried in the past over different things in my life, and I'm like God was always there. Like, God was always there. And it's just so beautiful to know that you're truly never alone. Like, so many people could abandon you. Like, your spouse can, like, you could feel misunderstood. Your family, I don't know, your whatever, whoever it is that you feel so abandoned from. God doesn't leave you. Even when he's silent, like, he truly does not leave you. And I think we need to remind ourselves that he does not leave us just because prayers aren't being answered, just because situations aren't changing, just because that person continues to betray and hurt you, doesn't mean that God can't intervene or cause change and restoration in your life.
Something else that I was thinking was, what if we're so fixated on the one prayer that we're wanting God to answer,
Mm-hmm.
but he's busy answering another prayer that you asked for.
Yeah.
One that you might think is smaller, but it plays into the one that you're wanting.
Yeah. Like, honestly, it's all about timing. It's all about trusting his timing when it comes to waiting, and when it comes to the silence. Like, we gotta trust him. Like, he's gonna like make it loud and clear for you very soon, I promise. Maybe not now, because right now it's like God is allowing us to, ¿cómo se dice? Madurar.
I don't know what that
He's
means.
allowing us to
Somebody knows what that means.
Madurar, ¿cómo se dice? He's allowing us to mature.
That's what that means?
Yeah. He's allowing us to mature and grow. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna let her, because sometimes he can't just baby us, kind of what we were talking about earlier. And it's all for a reason. It's all for his purpose. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I feel like we talked a lot already, right?
36
we
minutes?
can be talking forever. But I think that's just, I guess, something that we want to remind you all with, that when God feels silence, it does not mean that he's not moving, that he's not working, and he's not pruning you. He's honestly doing his best work. This timing that he feels so distant, he's probably doing the best work.
I feel like this is something that a lot of people go through. I'm pretty sure somebody's going through this right now, and I think our desire is that it helps somebody. It helps somebody know that, one, God's still there. Two, they're not alone. Three, they're not crazy. Because I feel like that's the one thing, is that, like, sometimes you can feel like you're crazy for not hearing God, or for just in general, like, going through a specific situation. And so I feel like that's what we want, and that's our heart for this, at least this episode. And I don't know who's going to listen to this. If you're listening, I mean, it's for a reason.
Yeah. The whole point of this podcast isn't for us to be known or be popular or have like the most views, or that like for it to be a hit. What did you say?
I said it's my dream. It's my goal. I'm kidding.
I hope so.
I'm
because
kidding.
honestly, that's why we're not posting consistently. Because honestly, first of all, we're busy. We mentioned that before. But also, like, we just want to share parts of our testimony and our faith, and use this little platform that we can together to be able to do that for whoever's meant to listen, whoever's meant to come across it. And we hope that whoever's listening now, that this blessed you and encouraged you, because we've experienced a good amount of things that we've not only seen his goodness through silent seasons, but we know that there can be beautiful growth through it. So we hope that's just a reminder to you all as you face anything today. And we can't wait to see y'all on our next episode.
Whenever that'll be.
Bye. Adios.